Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you tuning in. If you are new to the channel, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell so that when I post, you'll be the first person to know. My name is Patrick Tawia Matope, and on this channel, I do deliver content on social work and issues to do with social care in general. I am hoping that somebody will learn or will get something out of these videos that I do post. That's the reason why I actually do it. But I don't want to appear as if I know everything. This is information from my own personal learning and from my own self-directed learning and from my own experience as well as my interaction with colleagues and stuff like that. So if you want further information concerning some of the topics that I do deliver here, please do your own research or go to the relevant, local authority if you've got a local authority local to you and ask some of these things, including at the Citizens Advice Bureau, and you'll be able to get some of this information. Remember, we are in the day of technology and you can actually research or Google some of this information on your phone or stuff like that, and you'll be able to get that information. But I'm just trying to deliver this information so that it can be synthesized and it will be easy for some people to actually, get to understand some of these things that we do as social workers. I am a social worker by profession, so that's my passion in terms of delivering information to do with social work. And I'd want to believe that I am where I am because somebody else made it possible for me to be where I am in terms of imparting knowledge to me, which is the reason why I actually do this. So thank you so much for tuning. Don't change that dial. Please listen and watch this video until the end, and hopefully you'll be able to gain something. So in today's video, I'm just going to be talking to you about the step-by-step process or the step-by-step guide to help you through the process of registering with Social Work England for those qualified overseas. It's specifically for those qualified overseas, but you will find that some information may be applicable to those who qualified locally as well. Why those qualified overseas? Because the person who asked me to put this video is somebody who is overseas, who is intending to register with Social Work England, and they asked me to actually post this video so that they'll be able to watch and possibly share. Right, so without wasting much of your time, let me jump straight into it. First and foremost, one thing that you need to understand is registering with Social Work England can take some time. So you need to be patient. You need to be patient whilst the process unfolds, whilst the process is being done. The information I'm sharing now is information that I've known from interacting with colleagues that I've supported who came over, or some colleagues who have registered with Social Work England later on. Personally, I qualified 19 years ago, so more than 19 years ago, actually. It's going to be my 20th year of practicing this year because I qualified in 2004. So by August of 2024, it will be 20 years of me practicing social work, believe it or not. But yes, it's been 20 years. For those who went with me to uni, I'm sure you can look back and think, is it already 20 years? Yes, it is 20 years, yeah. So I registered way back, before it was actually GCSC, and then it moved from that. I can't even recall what it was back then. Then it moved to GCSC. Then our names were transferred on the register from that previous agents to GCSC, and then I got registered with GCSC, and then it changed again to HCPC. Then I got registered with HCPC for a while, and then it changed again now to Social Work England. So though I registered way back, long back, 2014, 2013, I think it was even 2012, I can't even recall that, but that was way back, long back, because I got registered and then I didn't even apply for jobs for a long time up until I decided to apply for jobs and move over to England. So I got registered way before I even started to practice in England. So I got registered in England, but I wasn't actually practicing at the time. I was practicing in Namibia, but I was registered in England. Then I decided to, actually apply for a job and then move over. So information I'm sharing today, it's more from my interaction with colleagues who have registered with Social Work England directly. Not to say I'm not registered with Social Work, I am registered with Social Work England, but remember, for me, I didn't go through this process because I registered long back. Some of the things which I'm going to be talking about now is exactly what I did when I registered, but some of the things might are slightly different in terms of the fees being paid and stuff like that. So first and foremost, the one thing that you need to do is there is a guidance which is there on the website of Social Work England titled Overseas Applicant Guidance. You need to open that and read it from the first word to the last word. You need to read that. That's the advice I can give you. But today's video is going to synthesize some of the information so that you can get some bites from it. So you need to read that guidance because it's specifically meant for people who are qualified outside England or outside the UK, and those who want to join Social Work England register. Because remember, for somebody who qualified in Ireland, somebody who qualified in Wales or in Scotland, it's easy for them to register with Social Work England as opposed to somebody who qualified overseas. So that overseas applicant guidance is there for you to read and understand what is it that is required of you to be able to register. So the next point or the next step that you need to do is to create an online account. You need to create your online account because remember, the registration process is done online. So you need to go to the Social Work England website, create an online account, and before applying, creating an online account, you need a personal email for this. So you need to make sure that the email you are going to be using there, you've got access to that email. It's not somebody's email. You've got access to that email each and every given time because there will be time where you will need to be accessing that account to check progress and check what's going on there. So that's important point number 2. And then point number 3, there is what we call a pre-application checklist that you need to come up with to make sure that everything else required for you to be registered, you have it. Everything else that is required for you to be submitting that application, you have it. So you need to be having your own pre-application checklist where you need to be ticking off this, I have this, I have this, I have this, I have, because once you apply without everything that is required, your application will be rejected, you lose your money because it's non-refundable, or it will just cause more delays and more delays. So you need to make sure that when you hit that submit button, when you apply, you have everything that you need to actually hit that submit button. So you need to have your pre-application checklist. So what are the things that you may need to be checking? You need to make sure that you've got a valid passport, which is valid for, for more than, which is valid for more than 6 months, basically. And remember, this is the passport that is going to be used also for your own identification. So you need to make sure that you've got a valid passport. And point number 2, you need to evidence your knowledge of English. You need to evidence your knowledge of English. And you also need to evidence, it may not necessarily be that your degree was taught in English, but if your degree was taught in English, it makes it a bit easier to evidence your knowledge of English. But for those who may not have had the opportunity to actually study the social work in English, some studied it in Afrikaans or Spanish or Portuguese or whatever language that you speak, you remember you need to evidence your knowledge of English. It's either by writing the IELTS test, or you need to evidence it by actually producing evidence that your degree was taught in English. For me, when I registered, those are some of the requirements which were also required. So if you can't evidence it otherwise, then it means you need to write your English test and make sure that you evidence that part. And you also need to have your social work qualification as well as the transcript ready so that when you send the documents, all those things will be in place. And part of your checklist, you also need to make sure that if you have multiple social work qualifications, you can provide evidence for all of those multiple qualifications. Some people may have first degree, some people may have a master's degree, some people may have a PhD. You need to provide evidence of all those qualifications that you are mentioning. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you've got a PhD, if you mention that I only have a degree, you won't be registered. You will be registered, but if you have that qualification, produce it and put it there as evidence. Evidence of training and development related to your social work qualification is also required, because remember, there is what we call continuous professional development which is required. So you need to also evidence that you are registered in your country of origin. you are registered in your country of origin. That is a requirement as well. And then the last requirement would be to make sure that there is a professional email address for your course providers. The college that you went to, they need the professional email address to liaise with those people to verify your qualification and to verify your performance, in terms of you obtaining that qualification, and to verify any other things that they may need to verify, because they may also need to verify whether your qualification will meet the standards for them to register you. In the olden days, there is what they used to call NARIC evaluation, where you would send your qualifications and then they can be evaluated to make sure that they are comparable or they are compatible with you coming to actually practice in England. So you need to be mindful of that. Right, moving on then to the fees payable. This is also very, very important. You need to make sure that you've got the funds to pay the fees. So it's another thing for you to create an account and make sure that you have everything on the checklist and you don't have the fees, because your application is not going to go anywhere. You can't hit submit actually. So you need to make sure that you've got the fees. So there is a non-refundable scrutiny fee of £495, which you need to pay when you submit your application. That's fee number one. That is that needs to be paid. And then there is another fee that needs to be paid once your scrutiny has gone through. Once your registration has been confirmed, you need to pay what we call a registration fee, which is £90, which is paid every year. However, this depends on when you apply, because I think there's a certain period of time when you have applied, you don't pay the £90 fee, but you need to set it aside so that when your scrutiny fee £495 goes through and the papers are looked at and they feel that you are able to register with Social Work England, then you need to be paying the registration fee. So remember, registration fee is separate from the scrutiny fee, and the registration fee is paid annually. One thing to mention is most local authorities, once you get the job in a local authority, they do reimburse you that registration fee that you pay £90 per month. They do reimburse it. Right, so moving on then to the online application. You remember, when you create your online account and you are making your application, you need to continuously provide evidence that demonstrates how you meet the registration requirements. If they ask you for specific evidence, you need to be putting that evidence, you need to be uploading that evidence. Ensure that when you submit all the required documentation, you have put everything that they're asking you to put there, because if you don't, it's either your application will be rejected, the non-refundable scrutiny fee of £495 is not going to be refunded, you have lost it, or it may cause further delays. They will send you emails to send this by this date, and if you don't send it by that date, you may actually lose out. It's going to cause you delays, which means you need to start again to get the money and all that, and it's just going to complicate things. There is also what they call verification and the decision-making process, because remember, Social Work England will need to verify your qualification to make sure that it meets the requirement of you practicing locally, and they will also assess your application. And when I registered long back then, you were asked to write what they call a personal statement, and we were also asked to do some competencies. There were about 6 competencies that you needed to write, each and every, how you meet each and every competence for you to be able to be registered in England and to be able to practice. So that, I think, is still the requirement, and you have to go through that. And once you are approved, you will receive a registration number, and then you can pay your registration fee. Remember, registering with Social Work England is essential. You can look for jobs on community care. You can look for jobs on Indeed or wherever websites that you apply for jobs. You can apply all you want, but if you're not registered with Social Work England, you are wasting your time, because you are not going to be called for an interview. You are not going to be considered. Even if you are called for an interview, once they discover that you don't have Social Work England registration, you are actually wasting your time. So you need to remember that you need to be doing all this. And for those who are registering, good luck, and I hope you will be able to actually get through and get registered. All right, the other question that somebody asked was, how long does the registration process take? I think the duration does vary. It may take several weeks. or it may take a few months. But usually the factors that determine the timeline as to when you can get your registration is document verification. If your unit takes time to verify your documents and to return, that may also delay the process. The assessment process, sometimes Social Work England may take time because they just want to assess, especially if your qualification is not in English. It means that it may need to be translated and all those kind of things that needs to be done. And there could be some additional information which may have been asked by Social Work England for you to be registered. That can also delay your registration process. So you need to be prepared for all this waiting time. Like I said earlier on in the beginning of the video, you need to be very, very patient. Right. The other question which somebody asked was, can I track the progress of my application? Yes, you can track the progress of your application in your online account. So you need to make sure that, remember I mentioned about you need to create you need to create an account, and you need an email address that you have access to, because you'll be able to log in and check and casually track the progress of your application. So it's easy. You just log back into your Social Work England website, account on the website, and check your updates. And they will provide you the status of your application. They will send you notifications as well through email and all that. And as you actually see it as it moves through the assessment stages and the assessment process stages, so you'll be able to actually see all that. The other question somebody asked was, is there a helpline for the application related queries? Yes, there is a helpline which is there. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be sharing that number. You can go on Social Work England website if you are really serious about registration, and you'll see the number which is there, and you'll be able to call. Remember to put the international dialing line +44 before you put in the number, so that you can get through and talk to them if you want to talk to them. What are the typical reasons for application delays? This, I'm not talking on behalf of Social Work England. I need to put a disclaimer. This is information shared by other colleagues with the applications delayed. So from what I've gathered from colleagues is that the common reasons why applications sometimes are delayed is because incomplete documentation. If you send your application with incomplete documentation, that will obviously delay your application. That's a given. There's no two ways about it. So you need to make sure that you submit all the necessary paperwork for your application to be considered. And then the verification process, sometimes it also delays things. Remember I mentioned about if they contact your uni and then they take a week or a month to reply, it also means your application will just be sitting there, and they can follow up. But if your uni is not responding, or if your referees are not responding, then it means nothing is also moving. So you need to make sure that everything goes smooth, and your uni also responds on time and so forth. Most universities, for those people who are coming over, say for example from South Africa, Zimbabwe, Jamaica, and all those other countries, they are aware of these things, and sometimes they do respond quite swiftly when it comes to these requests. So it shouldn't really cause that much of a delay really. If there are any additional information requests, sometimes this may also delay the process. Sometimes they may ask, it may give you some work to do to evidence your ability to meet a certain competence. Then it means you need to be working through that assignment and submit it. Sometimes that can also cause some delays. So whenever you are sent some work to do to prove competence on a specific competence area, then it means you need to respond promptly and swiftly to avoid any delays. Right, the other last thing that I think, this is my own thinking, I'm not saying I'm talking on behalf of Social Work England, it means if they've got high volume of applications, it may also mean they have a lot to deal with. That may also cause some delays. There's obviously, in any kind of work that you can think of, there's always peak times. There might be a backlog of applications. I think we all know, if you've applied for a passport in your country, you will know that there might be backlogs, or there might be peak times where there is sometimes even a queue. It's the same process as well. If you're applying to Social Work England, sometimes it can also lead to some delays if there are high volume of applications. So you need to make sure that you need to stay proactive, check your online account. If there are any updates, respond to those updates, and make sure that there's no more delays, really, so to speak. And how can I avoid delays? Just attend those 4 points which I mentioned earlier on, and then you'll be able to make sure that you avoid delays. Make sure that you complete your documentation, you respond promptly when they ask you for something, and you check your account regularly. Make sure that you log in and you check your account, respond promptly, and be patient. At the end of the day, you will see that things will come through, as you would expect. Then the last question I'm going to be talking about is somebody asked, is there a way to expedite the process for urgent cases? I would like to believe there is a way to expedite the process for urgent cases, yes, because I have a colleague who actually expedited the application. I think those were unique circumstances, but it's possible. I think from what I've heard from that colleague, I think it's possible to expedite the process. And I think the things that you may need to think about for you to expedite the process is, one, what is the situation that you are in that may necessitate social working to expedite the process? For example, if you reach out to them directly, tell them, explain the situation. I mean, this kind of a situation, is it possible for my application to be expedited? You need to provide the evidence as to what is it or that you are saying your application needs to be expedited or needs to be fast-tracked. If they are compelling, reasons, for example, you've had a job offer and maybe your financial situation is not that good, you need to actually start work as soon as possible, or it's possible that if there is an emergency, say your employer you are going to be occupying a critical, obviously we all know social work is under the critical skills list, but if your employer is evidencing that they actually want you to start as soon as possible, then it means your application may be expedited. For example, if you're a hospital social worker working in a mental health setting, you are in AMP, for example, it means that your services may be required sooner than later. So you can actually provide evidence of a job offer and provide evidence of the fact that your employer wants you to start work as soon as possible. And if you contact social working directly and provide that evidence, I think they will be able to listen to you and they'll be able to expedite your process or your registration process, because I know there is a colleague who has done that and they've managed to actually respond to them quite, in a swift manner. So with those few words, I think somebody may have gained something from this video today. And I just want to thank you all for watching until the end. Please do subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that notification bell so that when I post, you'll be the first person to know. Thank you so much for watching.